Hi, third graders. Today we are going to be talking about sequencing. Sequencing is when we put the events in a story into order from first to last. So to help us today, we are going to use this flowchart, and it's going to help us sequence the events from a part of the story, Bat Loves the Night. So you all should have listened to this story yesterday, and we are going to go ahead and do that together right now. You don't have to write anything down, but I would really love if you could go get your Journeys book and turn to page 218. Please pause this video until you have your Journeys book turned to that page. Remember, it is page 218. All right, let's get started. So I have my Journeys book right here, and we are going to read the directions to figure out what we have to do with this flowchart. It says use pages 218 and 219 to list the steps Bat takes to catch a moth. Use details from the selection to record the events. So sequencing is when you put events into order from first to last. And we are going to sequence the events that, like the steps that it takes to catch a moth, okay? So the first one is already done for us, and it says Event 1. A fat moth takes flight below her, and her is Bat. So on page 218, it says, then a fat moth takes flight below her. So that is the first step of this bat catching a moth. Okay, first the bat has to see the moth, and that's basically what this is saying. If we go on to page 219, it says, Bat plunges, fast as blinking, and grabs it in her open mouth. But the moth's pearly scales are moon dust slippery. It slithers from between her teeth. I love the way the author writes this story. I can picture it inside my mind so well. So what do you think the second event is in catching? What's the next step for Bat to catch a moth? Well, it says she plunges. That means she dives down. Fast as blinking. That means like as fast as if you were blinking your eyes, that fast, and grabs it in her open mouth. First, let's look at event 3. It says it slithers from between her teeth. So I see that they already wrote that part. So I should not write that for step 2. Okay? So what do you think the next step should be that we should write in this box? I think that it should be Bat plunges and grabs it in her open mouth. So we can just say she plunges to get the moth, right? So that is the next step that Bat takes. I'm going to move this. Sorry about that. So we're going to say next. I love transition words, and next is a great transition word to use when you are sequencing. Next, comma, I'm going to put a comment after that. Bat plunges. Remember, that means to dive down. She plunges and grabs it in her open mouth. So by it is the moth. So Bat plunges and grabs it in her open mouth. Perfect. That's step 2. Before we go on, I want you to get up and do 5 jumping jacks. Make sure to pause this video. So pause this video and do 5 jumping jacks and then resume. All right, hopefully that little bit of movement got some wiggles out if you needed it. Okay, so we have event number 2, and we even have event number 3, right? It slithers from between her teeth. And that's the next part right here. Okay, so we have Bat plunges fast as blinking and grabs it in her open mouth. That's what we just wrote. And step 3 that it already has in the paper is it slithers from between her teeth. Remember that slithers means to kind of like a snake. It kind of slides and it is very, kind of makes that noise, was like, okay, so I don't know. I don't really know what that noise was, but I'm sure you all can picture the moth slithering and like wiggling between Bat's teeth. So now we have to do event 4, which is the 4th step that Bat will use to catch the moth. Okay, so it's like, what happens after the bat is slithering from between her teeth? Well, if we look at this second part of the page, it says, Bat dives, nets it with a wingtip. That means she takes her wing and she nets it like that. She kind of catches it like that, scoops it into her mouth. So what happened was that when it was slithering from between her teeth, it must have fallen out. So we can see that here. First, it was slithering between her teeth. Then it fell out. It slithered out of her mouth. And so then she dives again. She catches it with her wing and scoops it to her mouth. This time she bites hard. Its wings fall away like the wrapper from a candy. I love that. I can really picture that in my mind. I love the way the author writes with such good detail in this story. So I think that's the next step, right? So we should say in event 4 that it falls out of her mouth, right? So then, that's another great transition word. Then it falls out of her mouth. So Bat dives to catch it again. And it says this time she bites hard, right? So that way it cannot slither out of her mouth. So I'm going to say this time she bites hard. Okay, so that is the 4th step. We have one more step. So I'm just picturing Bat with that moth in her mouth. She's biting hard and the wings are falling away like wrappers from a candy. And this part here says, in a moment, the moth is eaten. The Bat sneezes. The dusty scales got up her nose. So what does she do after she catches it and bites it hard? What does she do? It says that she eats it, right? Within a moment, the moth is eaten. That means that she eats it very quickly. It does not take her very long to eat this moth. And then she sneezes because all of the scales from the moth kind of got up her nose and made her nose tickle. So she had to sneeze to get it out. So that is the last step of catching a moth, is to eat it, right? So finally, that is another transition word. We use those when we're sequencing, just like we used here, then and next. Finally, Bat eats the moth. So there we have our 5 steps of Bat catching the moth in the air. So first, I'm actually going to add a transition word here. First, a fat moth takes flight below her. Next, Bat plunges and grabs it in her open mouth. And then I need a transition word here too. Maybe I'll write, then it slithers from between her teeth. Then it falls out of her mouth, so Bat dives to catch it again. This time she bites hard. Finally, Bat eats the moth. So there's our 5 steps. So what you are going to have to do now is go on to Seesaw and you are going to do your own sequencing activity. Remember that sequencing means you are putting events in order from first to last, just like if you were making a bowl of cereal. The first thing you would do is get out your supplies, right? You would need to get out some milk and you would need to get out the cereal. The next thing you would do, oh, and a bowl, right? Milk, cereal, and a bowl. The next thing you would do is you would pour your cereal into the bowl. Next, you would pour the milk into the bowl. And then you would eat your cereal. And you would also need a spoon, right? So you should probably do that. You should grab that as a supply first. So first, grab your supplies. Next, you have to pour the cereal into the bowl. Third, you need to pour the milk into the bowl. And fourth, you can enjoy your cereal. So you can choose sequencing with lots of different things that you do in your daily life as well. And all stories have events in them that we can put into a sequence, which means into order. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I hope you are enjoying the story of the week, Bat Loves the Night. It's one of my favorite stories from Journeys, and I will see you all next time. Bye.